all these things that would have taken you hours or maybe even days or sometimes even longer can now take just several minutes or even shorter, like literally seconds, when you use ChatGPT. And I think this is absolutely amazing for all of us who are writing research papers and who want to publish them in good journals, because ultimately if we can save time doing, simple repetitive tasks, we can spend more of that time on doing stuff that is actually really important and more difficult and is going to make your papers better. So that's why in this video I want to go over the top things that ChatGPT can help you with when it comes to research papers, so that you can publish your paper in a much better journal. And if you're new here, my name is Marek Kiczkowiak and I run Academic English Now, where we help PhD students and researchers regularly publish papers in top journals in the field. And if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future videos. Now, before we dive into the specific tips and I show you how to use ChatGPT to really accelerate your progress with your research papers, let me just preface it by saying that this is just a tool. It's not good enough yet to sort of replace you and replace the researcher in writing the research paper. It can help, but it's just a tool and it's limited in many different ways. So you've got to understand that you can't just tell ChatGPT to write a couple of paragraphs for you and then use it as ChatGPT writes it and then submit it. It's just not going to work like that. Plus, it would kind of be plagiarism, although AI isn't human. So I guess that's a subject for another video. So what you've got to do is remember about the limitations of the technology. For example, one main limitation is that it was trained on data up to 2021, which means that like more recent papers and more recent data are not going to be there. Another crucial limitation is that it doesn't pull the references for most things. So when you're writing the literature review, ChatGPT can write paragraphs for you real quick, but there are no references for them and you can't really pull the references for it. So you will still have to find the papers yourself and refer to them in the text. So that's another limitation. And of course, what ChatGPT writes isn't necessarily perfect or good enough to be published in a top journal. It's a start. And sometimes it's actually a really, really good start, considering that, it was written by AI, right? But you will still most likely have to take it, improve upon it, revise it before you finally submit it. So like any technology, any tool, like for example, a referencing software, ChatGPT has its obvious limitations. But despite these, we would be silly not to use that technology and not to make really good use of it to accelerate our progress. Think about it. It's a little bit like insisting that you should do all your references manually, because if you use a referencing software like Zotero or Mendeley, you're cheating. Well, you're not cheating. You're just using the technology's help to do a manual, repetitive task so that you can focus your attention and your time on much more important and difficult stuff. It's the same with ChatGPT. So with that said, let's dive in and let's see exactly how you can accelerate your progress with your research papers using ChatGPT. So the first thing that we're going to do is get ChatGPT to give us some good titles for research papers. So one thing that you can do is feed in the abstract of your paper that you've already written. And I'm going to copy and paste the abstract that I've already got. And then I'm going to tell ChatGPT to suggest a title for a research paper based on this abstract. And we're going to compare it to the original title of the paper that I published. So this is the title: Native Speakerism in Course Book Authorship, Linguistic and Ethnic Representation in Business English and English for Specific Purposes Course Books. This is really, really good, actually, right? I'll tell you what the original title was. So this was the original title. So I kind of have like a question: who gets to be an ELT coursebook author, and analysis of English for specific. But I think ChatGPT's title is very, very good. It follows a typical pattern of, the overall topic, meaning, native speakerism in coursebook authorship. That's the overall topic. And then we have like the more specific topic after the colon. That's a very typical structure of an academic paper title. Now, let's see if ChatGPT can maybe give us some alternatives so that we can choose. Can you suggest 2 additional titles for the research paper? Yeah, so it suggested 2 more titles. Both of them are really good. They're really on point and on the topic, right? The only thing is that they follow like exactly the same structure, meaning, we've got the main topic and then we've got like the more specific topic. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But maybe we want like kind of a different structure for our title, because it's quite common as well to have titles that have questions in them. So let's see if ChatGPT can do that for us. All right, so this comes to knowledge of how questions are actually created for academic papers. So it's important that you know those patterns. But I just told him to create, ChatGPT, to create a title for a research paper that would incorporate a question, right? Both of these titles are very good. I wish I had used it before, actually. Who gets to write business English and English for specific course books, an examination of native speakerism in authorship selection. Excellent. Is native speakerism in course book? Very, very good titles. So ChatGPT can clearly give you titles. The way to do it is just to paste the abstract and ask ChatGPT to give you titles. An alternative, if you've got the whole introduction written, you can also give ChatGPT the introduction and it will give you good titles as well. Now let's see if ChatGPT can actually do the reverse. So can it write an abstract based on, for example, the title of your paper? So maybe, you've written the whole paper, you've got the title, but you're still struggling with the abstract for a paper, right? And I've got a full video right here where I dive into a lot of detail to how to actually use ChatGPT to write a full abstract. And there are several steps. And here we're just going to cover one step. So we're just going to give ChatGPT the title of a paper and see what abstract it is going to produce for us. This is very good, I must say, right? I just gave it the title, right? The aim is very clear, right? In here, right? We know exactly what the aim is. We kind of know, the methodology, and we know the results. So this is really good. It follows the exact structure of an abstract. Now, if you don't get such a good abstract the first time, because I've been playing around with ChatGPT, so I've fed it some data. That's why it already produced something so good straight away. You might want to watch this other video when I walk you step by step through how to actually use ChatGPT to write an amazing abstract. Now, if you've enjoyed this video and you would like to get some more personalized human help when writing and publishing your research papers, then schedule a free one-to-one consultation. We're going to dive deeper into your challenges and also pinpoint your exact goals and outline a personalized strategy and a plan for you that will help you to overcome your challenges and get to your goals much faster. If this interests you, then the link to schedule a free one-to-one consultation is right below this video. Now, what we can also get ChatGPT to do is to work on a research gap. And a research gap is something that a lot of PhD students and researchers like yourself, I know, struggle with. People always send me messages here on the channel. How do I find a research gap? And there are a lot of videos on this channel, such as this one, where I go through the whole process. But obviously with ChatGPT, we can accelerate this process as well. So let's see if ChatGPT can suggest us any good research gaps on a specific topic. I'm asking ChatGPT to suggest a research gap on native speakerism in English language teaching. The main reason for this, why I chose this topic, is this is, what I have been publishing papers in. So I'll be able to assess whether these research gaps make any sense. So let's see what ChatGPT gives us. All right, so this is what it gives us, right? And anytime I use it, I'm more and more surprised by what it can give us. It's spot on. The impact of native speakerism on language assessment and testing practices, it definitely hasn't been assessed that much. To the best of my knowledge, there are 1 or 2 publications, but it's definitely a big area that could still be studied further. And if you've watched my other videos on how to actually present the research gap, you will notice that this is really, really well presented. Because, ChatGPT in here says, while research has examined X, Y, and Z, there is still limited research on that affects the design and evaluation of language proficiency tests, given the widespread, So it gives really good phrasing for how that research gap could be presented. Now let's see if it can give us 1 or 2 more on this. Right, so again, this is pretty good. The only thing I would say, those research gaps are accurate, but they are a little bit vague. How native speakerism affects language learning. In what way? What do you mean specifically by language learning? I think that could be made more specific. And certainly, language policies and native speakerism, institutional, national, international levels, this is all very good. So you can use ChatGPT to suggest research gaps. Now, I will say it's very, very important. I need to highlight it. Don't just take this and copy and paste it to your PhD or to your research paper and just say I'm definitely going to research this. This is definitely accurate. It's just a tool that you can use for brainstorming. So what I would do, after this, I would go off and start reading the literature just to see if this is actually accurate and how to make this research gap more specific. But if you're stuck with the research gap, you have zero idea, I think these ideas are brilliant. They have saved you weeks of research, and now you have something that you can go with and do further research on it. So I think that's brilliant. Now, let's see if ChatGPT can suggest really good research questions based on research gaps. So let's assume you've already found a research gap, and what you're looking for is a really good research question based off that research gap. What I'm going to do is just paste the research gap from that same paper where we've seen the abstract and the title and see what research question ChatGPT comes up with. All right, so I gave it the research gap, basically from the previous paper that we've been discussing. It's a published paper. And ChatGPT suggested a really good question. How does native speakerism affect the hiring practice of coursebook authors in English language teaching, and to what extent does ethnicity play a role? In what ways does the lack of diversity among coursebook authors impact the content and cultural representation in coursebooks? And how can publishers address these issues? Both of these research questions are fantastic, and both of them should be investigated, to be honest. And I'm saying this with confidence because I know this field very well, so I can assure you that at least to the best of my knowledge, these questions haven't been answered. So another way you can use ChatGPT is, if you have a research gap, you can just give ChatGPT the research gap, and from that you can get research questions. Now, a big problem that a lot of people have with research questions or aims is that they are too vague or too general. I mean, what ChatGPT suggested here is pretty good already, but let's see if it's capable of making a research question more specific. Right, this is pretty good. This is definitely more specific. I mean, I find it funny because it says the specific hiring practices. That's not really what I meant, ChatGPT, but okay. But yeah, it's better. Major publishers. Now, with that said, I think, you want to probably define which publishers. So it's not perfect. You probably want to pick 1 or 2 publishers or however many is feasible, right? But it's definitely better. And then how do these practices contribute to native speakerism and the underrepresentation of people of color, right? So we've got this is more specific than what we had here, right? So this is definitely better. So to an extent, I think ChatGPT can help you to specify your research question. So if you're struggling, if your aim or research question is too vague, your supervisor has told you that, then you can use ChatGPT to make it more specific. Now, another area that like I get questions on all the time, and I know like PhD students and researchers struggle with a lot, is the literature review. The first thing that people usually struggle with is like, yeah, where should I start reading? Like, what should be my literature review about? Which papers I should read? So let's see how ChatGPT can help us accelerate the literature review process. So I'm going to do something more general first, right? So let's imagine like you don't have a specific research question yet. You're just kind of starting out with a topic, and you know you want to see what are some of the key publications that you should read on that topic, just to get yourself started. So let's see what ChatGPT is going to give us. All right, yeah, it's giving us a lot. And again, I have knowledge about this topic. That's why I chose this topic. So at least I can assess the information that ChatGPT is giving. This is an absolute key publication. This is a groundbreaking publication as well. This is super key as well. This has been widely cited as well. And this is something more recent, right? And it's a book. I like the selection in here because really with those books, and papers that have been suggested here, you would really get a good first grasp of the topic if you know nothing about it, right? So I think that's a really good suggestion. Now, see if it gives us some more recent publications. Man, even I appear here. That's awesome. Thank you, ChatGPT. I should pay you for publicity. This is really good, right? So first we've got like, you know, some like groundbreaking publications, and these are really groundbreaking like publications that everybody must read if you're into this topic. However, they're very old, you know, so they're not going to give you the most recent research gaps and things like that. So that's why, you know, you want to read the most recent stuff as well here. And these are all very good publications. Now you could ask ChatGPT now to get a little bit more specific. For example, let's see, you know, I'm diving a little bit deeper, not just English language teaching in general, but I'm interested more specifically in course books. See if ChatGPT gives us something more specific. So I must say I'm not very impressed at the moment. Just this one last publication is about teaching materials, but everything else, the first 4 publications, are not about teaching materials at all. So that wasn't very good. It might be because ChatGPT misunderstood my course books, right? So maybe we want to input teaching materials or something like that, right? But this wasn't very good. Nevertheless, you can definitely use ChatGPT to get you the literature that you should start reading. Now let's see if ChatGPT can help us with the structure of the literature review. And I've got a really good video here where I walk you step by step how to actually structure the literature review. But let's see what ChatGPT is actually capable of. So I'm going to give ChatGPT the aim of the paper. It's going to be the same paper that we've looked at in terms of title and abstract, so that, you know, we kind of stay on topic, and see if it can suggest, you know, the topics I should cover in the literature review. Let's see what topics ChatGPT suggests for the literature review. All right, so if you're just starting out, look, and you really don't know where to start with your literature review, what topics to cover, I mean, this is brilliant. Like, it saves you literally weeks of thinking and getting it wrong, you know? This is really good, you know? And it's kind of already organized pretty logically, you know? Because this would definitely be, you know, the first topic that I would cover. It's in fact the first topic that I covered in my literature review for this very paper, right? This one, yeah, the importance of course books, it definitely has to be there. I don't think you need to dive into a lot of detail about this, but it would still need to be mentioned in the literature review. This, for sure, this needs to be in your literature review. It's part of your topic, and the same as this. I'd probably put these two together. They're kind of the same. It's like linguistic and ethnic diversity in course books. So this is just like one topic. Yeah, and there's got to be some kind of critique of all this, of course books, because that leads you to the research gap and your research aim. I don't think we need any alternative approaches. I would delete this. I wouldn't include it because that's not part of my topic. But overall, like, this is really good. It gives you the exact topics you should discuss in your literature review. And then if you saw earlier that, ChatGPT is able to suggest which papers you should read, well, you could take one of these topics, right, and ask ChatGPT to provide you with the books or the research papers that you should read to get information on this topic. So it really cuts down your sort of like thinking and preparation time. But let's see if it could actually write something. So what we're going to do is see if ChatGPT can write an introduction to a research paper. Again, we're using the same topic, the same research paper, because at least then, we can compare it with the original and just decide whether this is any good at all. Right? So I suggest writing a 4-paragraph introduction. It's going to be a fairly short introduction, but it is a viable introduction. Many research papers have just 4 paragraphs in the introduction, sometimes even 3 paragraphs. If you want more information on how to write the introduction for a research paper, I've got another video where I dive deeper into that. But let's see how ChatGPT does it. Alright, so ChatGPT wrote as an introduction. Is it any good? To be honest with you, it's not. There are many things that are wrong with it, but for starters, for example, it says the study aims to fill this gap, but there is no gap presented. It just said the question of who gets to write these course books is an important issue. Yeah, it's kind of stating a gap, but it's not really a gap. And typically, the aim and the gap would come at the end of the introduction to a research paper, not right at the beginning. There are some fields, especially I've noticed economics, where they state the aim straight out of the gate, but most of the time it will be towards the end, right? And there are other problems here as well. It kind of repeats the same thing again several times. And then, it says native speakers has a profound influence on many aspects of ELT, including recruitment. Studies have shown that publishers tend to hire white native speakers. And then it says little is known about the extent of this bias in the recruitment of coursebook authors. But it just said that studies have been done on this topic. So how can you say that the little is known about it? So that's very illogical as well. But then it says, so there is a small research gap here, and then we've got the research aim, which is probably copied from somewhere because, that's the paper that I wrote. So it's probably copied from there, right? So I wonder how ChatGPT would perform on a topic that hasn't been published yet. Let me find a topic like that. Right, so now I'm suggesting a title to a paper that I've actually been working on, but that paper hasn't been published yet. So I just want to see how ChatGPT performs with a topic that, hasn't been published yet. Because I had a feeling that introduction, a lot of that somehow, was maybe copied or adapted from the actual paper that had been published. Let's start with the first paragraph, right? This is a very good opening sentence because it states the importance of the topic. By the way, if you want more on how to structure an introduction, watch this video, right? And then we've got like a problem, right? So this is not a bad opening paragraph at all, I would say, and then it goes straight into the gap. But I think the problem is that there is no literature review. So what ChatGPT would need to do is add a paragraph here between this first and the second paragraph. I would want to see at least 1 or 2 paragraphs reviewing the issue, reviewing what has been done so far, right? But then this is not bad at all, right? And then we've got methodology. Now, to be honest with you, this is not that common in introductions to research papers to present the methodology of your study. It might be done in one sentence, kind of as part of the aim, but it's not really a whole paragraph in the introduction. So I wouldn't put it here. And then we've got the contributions, which is good. Very often introductions to research papers can end with contributions, So that's straight out of the gate. We can tell reviewers why our paper is important, right? Let's see if it performs any better if I give it the whole abstract rather than just the title. Right, so now I'm giving it the whole abstract and see how ChatGPT actually improves the introduction. So I'm just, I'm feeding it more information, basically, and we'll see how it performs. Obviously, this is a little bit unrealistic because, you would never have the abstract before writing the introduction to the paper. You write the abstract last. But nevertheless, let's see what it does. This is a good opening paragraph. Again, we've got the importance of the topic and the problem, and that's really good. However, again, there is no literature review. It just goes straight into like what this study is going to do. And then we've got methodology and practical implications. So it's still the same. So like if I had to rate it, sort of out of 10, I would give this introduction like a 6, maybe. It's not bad. Like I honestly wish a lot of people could immediately write like this. Some introductions that I've read are much worse than this, but it's not great. So you will have to work with it. But, the good thing, I think, and the way to use this tool is for brainstorming, So if you're stuck with your introduction, you've been trying to write your introduction for 5 months and you're still nowhere there, give ChatGPT the topic of your paper and get it to write a draft introduction and then start working with it. It already gives you paragraphs, it gives you some language, some content to work with, and then you can rewrite it in your own words, but you've got a starting point. Now, if you've enjoyed this video and you would like to get some more personalized human help when writing and publishing your research papers, then schedule a free one-to-one consultation. We're going to dive deeper into your challenges and also pinpoint your exact goals and outline a personalized strategy and a plan for you that will help you to overcome your challenges and get to your goals much faster. If this interests you, then the link to schedule a free one-to-one consultation is right below this video.